Hi friends, welcome back to Productive Passions, where we dive into the stories of people who turn their passions into powerful movements. Today, I'm thrilled to introduce you to a true dynamo, Nevine Coutry, the fearless founder of PlayDate, the UK's hottest app, bringing singles together like never before. Nevine's journey began in the most unexpected of times, the height of the pandemic, when she found herself out of work and navigating the all too familiar challenges of single parenthood. With lockdown in full swing, money tight, and babysitters hard to come by, she experienced firsthand how isolating it can be to date, make friends, or simply carve out a moment of me time. Rather than resign herself to endless swipes and solo Netflix marathons, Nevine leaned into her marketing savvy, her trademark determination, or as she'll tell you, her stubbornness, and her unwavering integrity to build a solution from the ground up. The result? PlayDate, an elegant, user-first platform designed for single parents who are hungry for community, connection, and the kind of support network that understands the unique joys and hurdles of parenting solo. Since its UK launch, it's taken off like wildfire. And the good news, PlayDate is coming stateside and beyond soon. So, whether you're one of the 320 million single parents worldwide, raising kids under 16, or you simply care about how technology can create meaningful human connections, you're in for a treat. In this episode, Nevine shares the highs and lows of her startup journey, her personal influencer, and why this work is so important to her. Trust me, you don't want to miss this conversation with one of the most inspiring entrepreneurs and kindest I've ever met. Let's get started. Nevine, thank you for saying yes to being a guest on Productive Passions. How are things going for you?
Thank you for having me, Christy. It's great to be here. Things are great. Yeah, sun is shining in London, where I'm based at the moment. Yeah, it's all good.
You are the founder of PlayDate. Tell us, if you would, a little bit about PlayDate, why it's so personal for you, and why it's necessary.
Sure. So PlayDate is the world's first dating app for single parents. And you might think it's something for the kids, but it's actually it's a grown-up Playdate, right? So I'm a single mom myself. I became a single parent in 2016. At the time, I have one boy. My son was 3 at the time. And I found it really difficult to meet people following divorce, right? So, and I live in London, which is a really busy city. I'm originally from Egypt, so I'm not from the UK. So all of my family is back home in Egypt. So I'm really on my own here. So no family, no real support system. So it's really hard for me to have any kind of social life. I was very busy with my work, and somehow dating or having a social life didn't become a priority for me. And sadly, my friends till today complain about how it's so difficult to see me, and how, I always have to, arrange childcare, and I need to, know way in advance before I see anyone. So dating wasn't really on my priority list at all. My friends, were trying about a year after my divorce, were like, oh, you need to get back out there. And I found it really difficult to meet people. And even on the, mainstream dating apps, single parents are massively disadvantaged because of the fact that they have kids. And that's just sadly how it is. 9 out of 10 non-single parents would want to be with a single mom or dad. And that's just the reality of it. It's too much baggage, right? An ex-partner, kids, is just too much, especially for someone who doesn't have a shared experience. So I found myself, having to pay a babysitter, plan to go out. Sometimes if the man is not feeling generous, have to pay for half the date, half the dinner. So I find myself spending money and effort and time, which I don't really have much of in terms of free time, on dates where I get ghosted, or, people just shy away just because get scared because it's too much commitment. And I said, you know what? I'm not doing this anymore. I don't care. I'm not going to go dating. And I kind of threw it in the universe at the time. Wouldn't it be cool if there was something out there just for single parents? And that was 2017, right? 2018. And I'm just threw it in the universe and never did anything about that. Fast forward to COVID, the pandemic and lockdown. I lost my job at the time, and I found myself, in lockdown with nothing to do. And that's when PlayDate was born, actually, when I found myself, okay, I've got all this time on my hands. Why don't I create something just for single parents? And I did the research and realized there was nothing out there, and I went for it.
PlayDate is an app. So that's very technical. And if you didn't fundraise before, then you had to learn to fundraise. So where did you go to learn all of this?
Self-learner. I'm a hustler, and I'm a very curious person by nature, and also very stubborn. So I kind of like, if someone can do, I'm sure I can find a way, right? So I basically did a lot of online search, found some, cheap, affordable development agencies out in India that could develop the app for me. And at that point, like, I just want to remind you that I had no income at the time, and I was really relying on my savings. I was living off my savings, which weren't that much. And I convinced my family to kind of pitch in and invest in, like, my very first, let's say, family and friends round. They gave me some money, which was fantastic. And I used my savings to develop the app. So I found some developers out in India. Of course, the very first MVP wasn't great. Like, when I look back now, it was very Mickey Mouse, right? Like, and I think any technical founder will never be completely in love with how their app looks and feels. I think that's just, a byproduct of being who we are. But yeah, it was very, very, like, when I cringed just thinking about how it looked when I first started, but it worked, right? And it took me a year to develop, and it was a lot of learnings. And until today, I'm still, not being technical, I wouldn't say is a bad thing. And I think there are many very successful non-technical founders out there. But if I had that skill set, I could, go in and fix a bug real quick. Or, like, I wish I could go back and learn the basics of, like, coding, because you have to rely on technical teams. But I was very fortunate to have been able to create this app by not being technical. But because I have a marketing background, I kind of knew how I wanted it to look. I knew how I wanted the user to feel. I knew what the customer journey should be like, because I am the user, right? Because, as a single parent myself. Yeah. So that bit I kind of had covered, but it was, definitely, I didn't have the technical know-how at all. So there's a lot of trial and error for sure.
You talked about a little bit some of your characteristics. What other characteristics do you have that you think contributed to going after this?
I think being stubborn is probably what has really helped me the most. My parents always complained about this when I was young. But I think because I refuse to fail, but I also refuse to not give something a go. Like, I give my 100% to everything I put my heart and soul into. And because I was so passionate about it, and because it's so personal, being stubborn has helped, because it's like, okay, we have to find a way around this, right? And I'm a hustler, and I'm curious. So I always, like, I love learning new things. And I always believe that there's a way. And, like, kind of, what's the worst that could happen, right? Like, you always have to give things a go.
You say you're stubborn. I think another way to talk about that is definitely being stubborn, but also persevering, that's part of being stubborn. It's like, you just don't give up.
Yeah.
When you run into challenges, what have you done? What do you find helps you navigate those challenges or obstacles or things that have just gotten in your way?
That is a very good question. And I actually don't know the answer to that. But I think what has helped me is because I've been through a lot of personal hardships and have overcome those personal hardships, that had, a business going wrong, or, like, it makes everything else seem so small in comparison, if that makes sense. So it's almost like I've been through a lot of very difficult hardships, from my divorce to losing all my money. At a certain point, I got, I had a horrific bank scam during COVID, and I had to take the bank to court. And I've just been through a lot of personal struggles on my own that have made me almost like, bring it on, right? Like, I feel like there's, obviously I can handle, I've realized that I'm a lot stronger than I thought I was, but it's almost like a small problem to others might seem like a massive problem, but to me, it's probably, in comparison to what I've been through already, I almost feel like I can do this, right? Like, if I've been through that, I can definitely get through this small hurdle, which might be for others like a massive hurdle.
You've navigated hard stuff before. You know how to do it.
Yeah.
I love how you said Bring it.
It's also experience, right? So when I look at my, like, for example, my tech team, they're all quite young, and if they're, if the app crashes or if there's a bug, they get really stressed out and they feel like it's the end of the world. But it's almost like, because they don't have that lived experience of going through hardships, right? It's like, guys, this is nothing, right? Like, it's fine. Like, what's the worst that could happen, right? It's okay. We'll fix it, right? So I think, yes, my hardships, I'm grateful for having gone through those difficult situations, because it has made me gain perspective and has made me a lot calmer and able to handle kind of highly stressful situations, because things will always go wrong. Like, I don't think there's a linear path to success in anything. Something will happen out of your control.
When we're younger, we're sort of sold on this idea that our path is going to be, you start here and you want to make it to here, but to here may be like this, and maybe here is way over here. And what this person said, it was from the book, Designing Your Life. And they say something like, would you let a 17-year-old make a decision about the rest of your life? And that's really what we do when we're that age. We are making a decision about what we want to be when we grow up. And that's okay. That's part of normal aging. But we may get down that path and it's not for us anymore. Or maybe it never was. And
absolutely.
And being able to do something different. I love that you took something so personal and have created something that you are very passionate about. You talk about facing criticism because PlayDate is too niche. And that couldn't be further from the truth. Why is that far from the truth?
Thank you for bringing that to light. Yeah, that really annoys me because, first of all, single parents are a massively overlooked and underserved demographic. There are 320 million single parents globally.
That's
320 million.
Well, that doesn't sound very niche.
No, it doesn't sound very niche. And there's sadly a 40% divorce rate, like an average divorce rate of 40% in the main markets, in the US and in the UK. More than half of those have kids, 16 or younger. So the demographic is, yes, single parents is a specific demographic, but it's definitely, certainly not niche. So yeah, it's a huge market, and they have purchasing power. They contribute to the economy. They have very specific needs, and they have not been addressed. And not just in the dating, not just for dating, but in all areas. Whether it's financial support, legal support, how to children's services, jobs for single parents. I feel like there hasn't been any business or entity that has really kind of addressed this demographic.
So there's a lot to be developed yet in a lot of different areas. When does PlayDate come into the US?
Very soon. So I'm actually currently fundraising. I was just in New York last month, actually, meeting investors and meeting with our childcare team, which I can't really disclose right now, but we signed an agreement. So one of the things about PlayDate, which maybe I should mention, is it's not your typical dating app. It's very much tailored to the single parent lifestyle. And one of the main pain points of single parent dating is childcare, especially for people like me who, don't have family or people to support. So we've partnered up in the UK, we've partnered with the UK's leading childcare company. So they provide our users with discounts on babysitters. So you can book that babysitter straight away through the app, so you can go on that date. And it's discounted, which is amazing.
So, and these babysitters are vetted, right? There's background.
They're vetted. Absolutely. Yeah. They're verified.
All that time you were spending in the past, not just calling the babysitter, but finding one. That's all in, man, that's fantastic.
And I know this business in the UK, they don't like me saying this, but that was kind of their thing when they first launched it. They're almost like the Uber for babysitting, because you can literally book it on the day. Like, you can book instant babysitters. So we've done the same in the US. So we've partnered with the largest US childcare company, which is super exciting. So they'll give our users a discount. So we are currently getting our US app version ready, and we hope to launch later this year. We're just fundraising at the moment to find the right partners to help us launch in the US.
Will you be sure to let me know, because I know a lot of people who
are
interested in your app.
Thank you. We will set up, we were planning on setting up a wait list for the US, so we can definitely share that with you.
Okay. So if we've got a listener right now who's looking for the wait list. Where can they find that?
So it'll be on our website. So go to playdate.com, or they can write to us at info@gotoplaydate.com if they have any questions or wanted to learn more about the app.
And to clarify, it's not just go to playdate.com. The website is
go to playdate.com. Yeah.
Okay,
Correct.
I wanted to clarify that.
Someone had bought the Playdate domain before me.
Yeah, they got it before you. That's all right. You've got a good one. Will the platform allow for international connections?
We haven't really thought about that, but we do have, I mean, there's obviously a huge UK community. So because we're only available in the UK right now, so we have over about 65,000 users in the UK.
Wow.
When we launch it, the US will be our second market. So they won't be able to see any other users. But yeah, I mean, once the plan is after we launch in the US and gain a bit of, create a community in the US, we'll then be going on to Europe and the rest of the world. But there's no stopping people from connecting with people all over the world. Might make it difficult to go on a date, but it'd be a very expensive date to get on a flight.
Travel.
Yeah,
people go to a certain place every so often.
Of
it would
course.
be great to be able to connect.
It's also location based, so wherever you are in the world, you'll be able to see the other people and connect.
You recently attended Playbook in London, which is a network, correct me if I'm wrong, but a network of female founders, investors, and leaders. And there was a special guest there. Well, can you share with our audience who that was? And other than her notoriety, what work is she known for?
Okay, so Playbook, it's a community of women in all kinds of industries that are leaders in their own right, whether they're leaders in their business or they're professionals that are looking to support other women. So it's really a women's support network, and it's everyone from investors to professionals to founders, and it's a lovely group of women, mainly from the Arab world. So they started out in Bahrain in the Middle East. So it's really almost like promoting Middle Eastern, because I'm originally from Egypt, and that's how I became part of that community, but they are trying to expand into other markets. And one of their patrons and biggest supporter is Princess Beatrice, who is part of the royal family. And I didn't know, first of all, they did not announce that she would be attending, which was a really nice surprise for all of us at the event. But also, I wasn't aware that she was such a big supporter of women entrepreneurs and women entrepreneurship and supporting women startup businesses, which is really fantastic. And I think there's been a big surge in the UK of not just the royal family, but women in powerful positions or public figures that are really, really not just putting money behind female founders, but also really giving them access to all kinds of support in other areas as well, which is fantastic. So it was a really nice surprise to meet her, and I had a chat with her, and I told her about Playdate, and she did say she'd recommend it to her single parent friends. So I think I have a fan in the royal family now, which is great.
Congratulations!
Yeah, so it's a great endorsement. Yeah, it's a nice endorsement.
That's pretty darn cool.
Not bad. I've had worse days.
Why is that important that there are people like her who are very, very well known supporting other women? Because why not just support people? Why is it necessary
I get you.
to have specific events where women are supported and can network?
I think that's so important. And I think, we definitely need more of that. I think the reason why it's important is because, first of all, women, we tend to be not as confident as men when we're in a room where we're presenting. We tend to be, we don't really boast about ourselves. I don't know. I think we're biologically and innately, we don't have that. We don't big ourselves up. So we need other women in powerful positions to do that to help us do that for us. I also find that a lot of women, maybe some women do, some women don't. But for me, for example, I don't have the network that, I should have, or I don't have access to investors. I don't have that network where people can open doors for me. So having endorsement from other women can really help open doors and almost give you like a stamp of credibility and a boost of confidence to almost say like it's they've kind of verify what you're doing. But I think it's very difficult for women. I find it very difficult we also were very realistic. So even when I'm in a room of investors, which are usually white men, we need to see more women. And I know that there's, a real focus on getting more women into teaching them how to invest and getting them, helping them become angel investors. There's a lot going on. But it's, we can't deny the stat that everyone keeps talking about, which is that less than 2% of global funding goes to women-led businesses. And yes, I'm sick of my own voice saying this, but it hasn't shifted, and it's not going up. So there's so much talk about it, but not enough people are putting money where their mouth is. You know what I mean? Like, even a lot of women I've been to so many events where, oh, we need to support more women, but like actually do it, give us the money that we need to be able to do all of these amazing things that we want to do to make the world a better place.
You make the point about there aren't as many women investors as men. And I think you're right. I think part of that is we need education about how to become investors. Do I need $1 million to invest? And then how do I choose what to invest in? I was speaking with somebody about a year ago who started a phenomenal company. Her business was making millions of dollars. And she got a call from a friend who said, there is a guy here pitching an idea for a company that is identical to what you're doing. He doesn't have anything yet. There's nothing.
No way.
There's no company. But here you are with a very profitable business. So to your point, women's businesses need to be invested in. So now I have an idea for a whole other podcast where we talk about how do we get investors? How do we become investors?
I mean, if I had the money, like I almost had this almost utopian idea one morning, and I have a mentor here who's amazing. And I always give her my ideas, and she's like, oh, that's really sweet, but that would never work. I almost feel like if I had the money, I know thousands of female founders, all fundraising at the moment, literally amazing women doing amazing things with amazing ideas. If I had the money, I would literally give them each $100. But if we could all invest in each other, let's not rely on those men in whites in suits that we need to beg them to give us cash, and they won't. They'll always prioritize their male counterparts. Why can't we just invest in each other? And I think the education piece is important. I don't think you need to have that much to invest. You can start investing with small. It doesn't have to be $1 million. It could be $1,000 or $500. And then if we create a pool where we all just fund women funding women, it could work. But I don't know. It might sound a bit naive, but I think there must be a way.
The message is women, don't be afraid to ask for funding, because like you said, we tend to maybe shy away and we don't believe in our own abilities. So we need to be asking for the funding and learn how to invest ourselves.
Absolutely.
I read earlier today that recently a U.S., I think it was yesterday, a U.S. federal court ordered Apple to drop its 30% mandatory sales tax, allowing in-app payments to be made by external payment platforms. What does that mean for you and for other founders of companies that rely on apps to reach their customers and run their business?
I mean, this is such a huge win for any founder of a mobile app on the App Store. So, since you don't know this, but for anyone, any app that sells a subscription, any app on the App Store, Apple gets a 30% commission on every single subscription or even in-app purchase, which is crazy, right? So we've all been, when I'm talking to investors and I'm sharing numbers, I mean, I need to after this go back and change the numbers, because now it's going to be 30% more. So there's a big company called Epic Games, which you probably have heard of. They're one of the large, they have Roblox and Fortnite and, well, maybe not Roblox, I think Fortnite and some other games. And obviously they're huge. They have, billions and billions of users. And they took Apple to court, and they basically said, you have to, you're monopolizing and you have to drop this 30%. And they did. They've dropped it. I don't know if maybe they'll appeal the decision, but currently, I mean, I even got an email from Apple this morning to confirm, which is amazing.
You just became 30% more valuable.
That's the thing. That's exactly it. And any business on any app on the App Store has now become 30% more profitable, valuable and profitable. So now instead of, now my profits are going to go up by 30%. So now it's 100% revenues will go straight to the owners of the apps, which I think is fair. And then you can choose whatever payment, because at the moment to pay for subscription, it's through Apple. You can't use anyone else, right? So yeah, it's great news. It's really great news.
I'm thrilled for you and for everybody else. I'm curious to know who has influenced you the most, and do they know it?
From a business perspective or in life in
business
general?
Or personal?
I'd have to say my father and my former boss. And I say that, and they're both investors in PlayDate, which I'm very lucky about, which I'm very happy about. My father has always been such an amazing role model for me. And he knows this, and I always say this to him. I almost feel like I'm the female version of my dad. He always had so much integrity. And I think that's one of the things I also adopt in work, is having integrity and basically always doing the right thing, even when no one is looking. And I really stand by that in my life. Maybe I know a lot of people that have gotten ahead in life by not having integrity, and that's fine if that suits them. But I wouldn't be able to sleep at night knowing that I, cut corners, or I have so much integrity within myself that, yeah, maybe I didn't get as many great chances in life as a result, but it's so important to me. And that's always been one of his kind of core values that he's taught me. Never burn bridges. There's so many life lessons I've learned from him, and he's so well respected throughout his life, and he has such an amazing reputation until today. Like now he's retired, but he was such a hardworking person. He was in banking and finance, so he had a very, stressful job, and he was working long hours, but he always made time to be with me and my brother, and be such an amazing like father figure, but also an amazing man to look up to. Like, I don't think anyone would ever match my father. So he's definitely been someone I really look up to, and very career oriented, and has so much integrity, and just an amazing person. So I'd say he had a lot of influence on me. And then my former boss, who's now one of my investors, is a real visionary, a creative person. He's really taught me to be very open and to challenge myself, and to just be very curious about life. And I think we never stop learning. And I'm always curious about learning new things. I got into creating an app, not having any idea how to do that, right? So I think he taught me a lot about being visionary, looking into the future, and also about being curious. Being curious is, I think, a superpower.
I couldn't agree with you more. Being curious, and then not just letting it go, but then going and doing a little bit of research to figure out how things work, or why things work the way they do.
And I think that's why I always wanted to work for myself. Like, I did work within a company in Egypt when I lived in Egypt, but then I hate being boxed in, or like having that monotonous. I think if you're your own boss, you also get to experience so many different things. And I think my previous business, which was that marketing agency, I had so many different clients in different parts of the world, which made me learn so much about different cultures and different places. And I think that's really that gives me so much energy. And I just love, learning about new things and people and cultures and experiences.
So I want to go back for just a minute. As you're talking, and I'm thinking about, how you made this happen. Certainly it took a lot of time. And you said you did it during the pandemic, and the pandemic was a hard time for a lot of people. But it also has spurred some really creative ideas, more efficient businesses. Out of that, we also get PlayDate. So good for us. I don't want to root for another pandemic, but I'm really grateful.
True. I know what you mean. And I think also because people were lonely, and people had to be online. And it was actually not a bad time to launch, because, people could meet and walk in the park, go for a walk, and get to know people, because you couldn't be in a closed space. So I think it was, in many ways, I know everyone was saying like it's so unhealthy, everyone was stuck on a screen, but in a way it helped us connect while we were also isolated. So I think it was an interesting time, definitely a very difficult time, but people were very lonely. There's till today, there's a loneliness epidemic where people are seriously, facing loneliness and social isolation. So having a platform where you can connect with like-minded people that have a shared experience, even to just like complain about, oh my God, when is this going to end, right? It doesn't have to be to find romantic love, but I think it was so important for us to connect online during that period.
You just mentioned something about connections and social isolation. So I'm a big Mel Robbins fan, and I listen to her podcast. And I was listening to part of an episode on a drive today, and she was interviewing a physician who has been cited over 300,000 times. He talks about longevity. And one of the things he talks about, other than eating well, staying away from ultra processed foods, exercising, getting sleep. He talked about the dangers of social isolation. And as a single parent, it can be very socially isolating when you're trying to work and take care of a family and I speak from experience too. My life was consumed with these little people, which I am grateful for. That is not a complaint. But there's no way I could have factored in dating. And while I was surrounded by my children, I wasn't surrounded by people that I could have conversations, intellectual conversations, because it was either work related or
kids,
homework, football, cheerleading, whatever the activities the kids were involved in at the time. So I think, more than just a really cool app, you're really addressing one of the biggest health crises is social isolation.
100%. And there's so many, and also single parents are not single parents by choice, right? So they've been through some kind of trauma, whether it's losing a loved one or going through a difficult breakup. We do have a lot of solo moms though on the app as well. So I don't want to discredit them, but excluding solo moms that have chosen to become single parents on their own, everyone else in that demographic didn't go into becoming a parent thinking they wanted to become a single parent, right? Like, so add on top of the social isolation, also having those all kinds of trauma, that you've been through to become, that has made you end up being a single parent. So it's even more difficult for single parents to navigate, social isolation. And it's very easy to get sucked into, like, I often cocoon, I call it cocooning, where I basically go into myself and like actually not want to speak to anyone and try to feel very overwhelmed with everything I have to do. But I mean, bless you, you said 4 or 5 kids? 5? You have 5?
Yep, 5 kids. I'm married now, but most of their life I was a single mom, and I traveled.
Hats off to you.
We do what we have to do. But I think when we talked initially, I complimented myself by saying, I feel like you and I share a lot in common. I also am very stubborn, have those really hard times. There were some really hard times, made me have that perspective when something happened to go, yeah, that's hard, or that might suck, but watch me. I'll get through it.
I've got this. Yeah.
I've got that. I've got this. And that's something you get having gone through hard times. So it's a good reminder when stuff is hard. It's not like you're going to embrace it and you look for it, but you'll get to the other side of it, and you will have learned something, will have gained something. And that's really important.
Now that you say that, I think that having kids doesn't give you an option. So, I mean, because you have children, you have no option but to make things work. Like these little humans are relying on you. You have to find a way. Whereas I think if I was going through a hardship and didn't have a child, you can break down, you can let yourself go. But I think because we have to look after,
you can stay in bed all day.
You can stay in bed all day. You can cry. You can scream. You can break down. And I think, and maybe this will happen once he's 18 and leaves the nest. But I feel like a breakdown has to happen at some point. But because we have children, it's almost like you have to consistently be cheerful mom and be positive and get out of bed and do all the things you have to do. You don't have a choice. So, and a lot of people tell me, oh, how did you get through that? It's like, I didn't have a choice. I mean, I had to get through that.
Speaking of that, do you have a mantra that you sort of call to mind when things get tough?
There's no challenge that's too big, probably.
Yeah.
Or like, if at first you don't succeed, dust yourself off and try again. I just feel like I refuse to give up. I just refuse to give up. It's fine. You know, everything is going to be okay at the end of the day. Things will work out in one way or the other. And I think the universe, I believe in karma. I really believe in karma. And despite all this, like, and I shouldn't say this because I have integrity and I don't mean to boast about it, but despite all of my hardships, I'm very positive. I always see the glass half full and I always see silver linings. So yes, the pandemic was awful and what I've been through was so bad, but then I created PlayDate and look at how that worked out. Or, you know, I had a very difficult divorce, but at least I have this amazing child. So I think there's always a silver lining.
What advice would you give to somebody else who wanted to start something but felt stuck?
What's the worst that could happen? Like, what's the worst that could happen? You'll always regret not trying something. Like, it's better to have tried something and failed than to not have tried it something at all, because you will never know. Like, you know, and I think because I was I had a lot of like rock bottom moments. It's almost like, yeah, what's the worst that could happen? What's the worst? Like when you've lost everything, you have nothing left to lose, right? So it's almost like if you don't give something a go, you'll never know, right? And you'll always have that regret of not trying.
So what's next for you and PlayDate?
So I think the US is calling me. So I think what's next is getting that money and launching in the US, and I think that's going to really kind of take us to the next level. And I'm very excited. You know, I feel like we're on the brink of something exciting and getting it into the hands of, you know, there's nearly 20 million single parents, getting it into the hands of single parents to empower them and to help them find love again is going to be so rewarding for me personally. But yeah, I'm very excited about the US, and I think I really hope and I believe it will do well.
I can't wait for it to launch. And I hope when it does, I hope you're here and we can celebrate.
I'll come and visit and we can celebrate.
Will you be your own client?
I do get asked that question a lot. I find it to be, there's a conflict of interest. Okay. I find that, I don't know, I feel like it's unethical for me to be using PlayDate for myself. I almost feel like, I don't know, and people know me as the founder. So you know, people know that I'm the founder of PlayDate. Even my name is on the app stores as being the founder. So it's almost like I don't really want to put myself in that situation. But I'd much rather make sure that users are finding love, and then we'll worry about me later.
Nevine, thank you so much for joining me today. I am so excited about the work that you're doing. Yes, please let me know so I can share with the audience when it's available in the US, but also let me know when you come. I would love to meet you and celebrate the launch of PlayDate here in the US.
Same here. I can't wait, Christy. Thank you so much for this chat. I really enjoyed it so much. You're so easy to speak to, and it's been so much fun.
It's been a pleasure, my new friend.